What's up guys, I'm Dave Klein. In order to better understand the world of Dark Souls 2 and Drangleic, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about Drangleic's surrounding lands, the Berenices and Baldurs of Drangleic, so to speak. This ended up being so long, I decided to split the location guide into two parts. I won't be exploring kingdoms that were previously part of Drangleic, like Olafis, but rather focusing on lands outside of Drangleic. In this part, I'll be focusing in on Mirrah, Lindelt, and Melfia. So with that, let's go ahead and begin. We start with Mirrah, an eastern land in which many of the Dark Souls 2 NPCs hail from.
Our land of Mirrah is surrounded by enemies and constantly at war. There is only one way up in Mirrah. Join the Order and prove yourself in battle.
Lucatiel and her brother Azlatiel both come from Mirrah, a land where the harsh conditions have forced them both into a life of soldiering. It was known as a land of knights, and those who distinguished themselves on the battlefield were admitted into the elite ranks of Mirrah's official order of knights, an order in which Lucatiel belonged. These knights were expected to fight honorably with reliance only upon swordsmanship. They only resort to magic the only time they truly need to face the magic of an enemy. As such, there are very few spells from Mirrah, and of the few that did exist, most were used by the Shadow Knights, assassins whose sorceries were utilized to carry out assassinations in the cover of darkness. These spells, Fall Control and Hush, were non-lethal spells, but useful for those who wished to remain unheard. Those who fled even the Order of Shadow Knights had rejected all forms of honor, and resorted to unseemly mercenary work. Mercenary work was looked down upon in Mirrah, but it seems Crichton, also from Mirrah, may have taken part in this, and is known as a cold-blooded killer to his fellow Mirran, Kale.
I am Crichton of Mirrah. I travel from land to land to hone my blade. I've heard this land was full of danger. I thought it would suit me perfectly.
Mirrah is also the home of an infamous killer, a knight in name alone. He was locked in the dungeon for multiple murders, but shortly before his execution, he managed to escape.
Crichton and Pate traveled together from Mirrah to Drangleic until Crichton was trapped.
Damn! You toughening look!
Mirrah was also known for Gesteel, an alloy used to craft advanced weaponry. Gesteel was a precious alloy created in the eastern land of Mirrah, its composition a long kept secret from foreign lands. That is, until Chancellor Welliger was ordered by King Vendrick to grant the gifted blacksmith Llewellyn a lifetime contract, whatever the cost, in order to introduce the rare alloy to Drangleic. Chancellor Welliger was successful in bringing over Llewellyn, who crafted him the Espada Ropera and Llewellyn armor set as a gift upon his arrival. He went on to become the castle's resident master smith after his transfer to Drangleic, bringing his master craftsmanship and Gesteel along with him. Lindelt was home to Archdrakes, priests, miracles, and the House Austeria. The majority of the game's chimes, catalysts for miracles and hexes, can be traced back to Lindelt, and while clerics and miracles were commonplace in the land, sorcery was believed to be a profane practice, which is actually the opposite of Drangleic, where King Vendrick had a lukewarm opinion of clerics' powers, and kept them only as attendants to ceremony. In this sense, Drangleic was not the place for a cleric with any ambition. Perhaps this is what sparked war between Drangleic and Lindelt, for according to the Archdrake set, while little is known about the Archdrake sect and its ancient rituals, it is said that their well-honed miracles and unwavering faith in the face of death made them worthy rivals to Drangleic's forces in their day. Lindelt is a land governed by stringent laws, and those who dare defy them are punished without mercy. According to Unveil, a miracle that senses traitors, those who serve the Lindelt monastery willfully adhere to the strict commandments. The miracle was created to castigate those who ignore the righteous teachings. Perhaps this is why the shifty Lissi of Lindelt has left Lindelt for Drangleic, for Lindelt ascetics are sent to distant lands for proselytizing and self-training, but many of them decide not to return, for more than a few of these trainees liberate themselves from Lindelt's teachings in the process. And while Lissi is an example of an impure character from Lindelt, Ivory Roan's Sage of Lindelt would be the opposite. Ivory Roans created the Ring of Soul Protection, and her students the Ring of Life Protection, showing the land's emphasis on healing. Cleric for Sale also comes from Lindelt, who was a master of miracles who fought battles across the lands. His allies called him a holy knight, but his enemies feared him for his demonic powers. Chimes act as a catalyst for both miracles and hexes, so it's likely some of the upper echelon of Lindelt utilized both, hence his enemies thinking of him as having demonic powers. There are a few interesting connections to Dark Souls 1 within Lindelt. The Painting Protector Dark Spirit, looking similar to a Painting Guardian from Dark Souls 1, will attack in New Game Plus. Their gear is described as the Monastery Set, a traditional sacred armor crafted at the Lindelt Monastery. The ceremonial design suggests that they revered whatever it was they watched over. The Monastery Scimitar tells us it was crafted at the Lindelt Monastery to replicate an ancient sacred scimitar. Additionally, the miracles Bountiful Sunlight and Soothing Sunlight were both miracles once kept by the Lindelt Monastery that were both stolen and never recovered. We know from Dark Souls 1 these were miracles of Guinevere, granted to her maidens. Between these two connections, perhaps, and this is just speculation, Lindelt was where Guinevere left to with Flame God Flan, and hence why we can find so many connections. Another Lindelt mystery lies within the Arkdrake sect. The secrets of Lindelt rituals are protected by the Arkdrake sect, and only a select few are given access to their canon of knowledge, which includes the truthful origins of the Arkdrake sect itself.
Miracles have been passed down through us since the first flame. Isn't it extraordinary to think they've existed since the very origins of the world? And now, you can have this power for yourself. Don't miss out on the road to enlightenment. What is the first flame? Well, it's... You're not ready to comprehend it, I'm afraid.
Perhaps the Arkdrakes are based out of the Way of White, and learn about the First Flame and Gwyn. While Lycia doesn't actually understand what the First Flame is, it's possible the Arkdrakes do have further knowledge of this. Though both Arkdrake shields, the Slumbering Dragon Shield and Arkdrake Shield, depict images of dragons, so perhaps this deals with an understanding of the beginning of the world. While Lindelt was focused on priests and miracles, the southern land of Melfia was focused on sorcery and pyromancy. Melfia was home to the Melfian Magic Academy, and the academy where both Pyromancer Glockin and Carillion of the Fold taught at, and was home to the astrologists whose ideas led to the creation of new and very useful magical devices.
Sorcery and pyromancy thrive in Melfia. I've spent much time there, trying to perfect my art. But staying was a mistake. The fools there had no interest in truth. Their ambitions were paltry, and their smiles cloying. I was sick to the back teeth of their petty squabbles.
I have my very own teacher. His name is Carillion of the Fold, a famed sorcerer in Melfia, our hometown.
Rosabeth also comes from Melfia, following her teacher Carillion.
Master Carillion and I are from Melfia to the south, a land lush with sorcery and pyromancy. Master Carillion polished his art at one of our renowned magic academies. But he argued that the academies were terrible places to learn magic. This quite angered Master Glockin, my previous teacher.
And while Pyromancer Glockin was angered at Carillion, Glockin was a controversial figure himself at the academies, as he crafted replicas of the various quartz rings, Spell, Flame, Thunder, and Dark. He crafted so many of these replicas that they became widespread, such that his fellow magicians harshly scolded him for undermining lessons gained from harsh training. He was criticized for crafting these replicas, but it is well known that they have saved the life of many a traveler. It's also said that he may have made a hefty profit selling these replicas. Once again, though, this showed the various squabbles Carillion referred to. The other notable figure from Melfia was Olenford, who was revered as the father of sorcery in Melfia, but left Melfia to venture into the undead crypt in Drangleic. Falcon the Outcast too left his southern homeland of Melfia for Drangleic.
I went to a great school in the south, but neither sorcery nor pyromancy appealed. I learned nothing.
Nothing at all, but...
Perhaps, like Falcon, Olenford was drawn to the dark. Alright guys, that wraps up this part of my Dark Souls 2 location guide. In the next part, we'll focus on Forossa, Volgen, Lanafir, and the desert land of Jugo. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time. Peace.